Courage is rarely loud. More often, it lives in the quiet decision to pivot, to choose yourself, to act even when the path feels unseen. In this segment, Nancy Abdalla takes us into what she calls the messy middle, the space between clarity and action. Her lens blends strategy and emotional honesty, and you'll feel that duality as she guides the conversation. As you watch, notice where you feel tension. That's often where growth is waiting. Ready? Here's Nancy. Oh, courage can still stall. So, Nancy, I'm going to ask you to help us move us into clarity,
Okay.
into that messy middle where pivots happened and
Mhm.
decision requires boldness. So, over to you.
Yeah. All right. Like this is a topic that is so dear to me. And I also just love the difference between all of us. I feel like I'm getting so much from Liz and so much from Jim. And I definitely have a bit of a different approach. So, but I hope you get something from it too. Um, so I just want to talk about courage as a concept and like what it is first. And I'll start by sharing that I have always been a scared person. And I don't know if like people would not say that about me. And it's because like it's something I'm actively combating on a daily basis. Like I'm so hyper aware of it. And that's why I'm always like, Connie, I want courage as a topic. um, and just to even share a little bit more, like my mom is like a very scared person. It's so deep in her. She doesn't like to go outside often because of, the neighbors might see her. It's like a very close to agoraphobia. And so, her life has been really limited by the fear and the cage that she's put herself inside. Um, and growing up, I've seen that. And I made the decision that like I wanted a full life. I really wanted a full life. And similar to what Liz said about her father, who's a person who had, used like this potential, but didn't fully realize it. I feel like, my father was also a bit of that, but he was a big personality and people loved being around him. And so I think I got a little bit of that joie de vivre. And I'm somewhere in between, like being scared all the time and really wanting a big full life. So they're constantly in conflict with one another. And it's been like my hero's journey of life, trying to integrate these two sides of me. And so courage has been like this ongoing theme. And there's leaps, but then there's also inches and small steps that you can take. And so courage for me is something that you can grow into, even if you don't have it. It's not innate to you. Some people are born with confidence and they just like walk through life la di da and things just bounce off them, but some people don't. But you can, find this thread and then like nurture it, almost like going to the gym, having and transforming your body and just like working it out. And so for me, I've approached courage in a lot of different ways, in lots of different ways. For me, it took some courage to show up on this call and sit amongst Liz and Jim, you know, and feel like I could take up space in doing that. But I also trusted that this was a safe, friendly, loving group who all want to learn. And I believe that I have something to offer, even though if it's something super different, So just these small inches showing up and like, even if it's scary, doing it anyway. I think that's been a big learning for me. And I took that from Mel Robbins. And it's like I said earlier in the call, I've sort of stitched together all the things that have worked for me. A lot of somatic practices. So, really being in tune with your body, quieting the noise so you can hear yourself think, so that you can really start to get to the heart of what it is you want. And what are some small steps, not even big ones, just some small steps to start inching your way towards those things. Um, So some things I've done are just set some small practices where it's like not terrifying, but it's a stretch. It's like a little bit of a step in the right direction. So for me, showing up on this call. Another thing I've done is um, doing physical challenges. So I started doing cold plunges. What's interesting about cold plunges is that your body literally feels like it's going to die because it is such a stressful, physically stressful situation. So that was a really interesting experience for me, where you learn to something difficult's going to happen. So before you go into a cold plunge, something difficult's about to happen. So you start to prepare your body. Something difficult's going to happen, but we're going to be okay. We're not going to die. So that helps you just understand that it's a short-term pain. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. And then there's the part where you control your breath and you breathe through it. So again, like really being in tune with your body and using your body as a tool to help you calm yourself and steer the course. And, first I stayed in a cold plunge for 1 minute, then it was 2 minutes, then it was 3 minutes. And when I get out, the euphoria that you feel is unbelievable. Not just physically from like the actual benefits of a cold plunge, but because you did something hard. You did something terrifying. Your body literally felt like it was about to die. Like that's how it physically feels. When you get into an ice bath, your chest seizes up and you have to learn to like breathe through it. And people all around the world do this, so it's doable, And I've been to cold plunge groups where I've seen people say, nope, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not ready. And then they come and sit through the class and they don't do it. But then, I said, just come another time and try. And so sometimes people don't do it on the first time, but they do it on the second or the third. But it's like just the showing up and attempting is a starting point to sort of expand and stretch that courage muscle that exists inside you. So that's first what I wanted to just share a little bit of background around my journey with courage, how I've gotten through it, and the things I do to sort of help me push through. I think another thing that I wanted to share is, and that's what sort of inspired me creating Pivot Queen, which is something that, a combination of through my corporate career, I felt like I started to lose the really creative, inspired part of myself. And so I created a space where I could use art and storytelling and creativity to navigate all the things that I'm going through and what other people are going through, and all the stories that I've heard people go through. And so I sort of created a alter ego character, and I gave her a name. And I call on her when I'm afraid. And so there's voices in our heads. There's always voices telling us, you can't do this, or, you can, or that guy's cute, or I want this job. There's voices in our heads. And if you can sort of separate them and go, where is that one that was brave? Where is she? Where is she in all this? Let's find her. And so the way to find her is to think back to a time when you were brave. And it can be any time throughout your life, even if it was, childhood, like a time where you felt really proud. You did something a bit audacious, a little bit, cheeky. You were bold, even if it was for a brief moment. Think about who you were in that moment. Like, go back to that person. Think about who they were and like hang on to that feeling. And then like pull it forward, like start to give it some shape, start to give it a name, a wardrobe, a backstory. The way that, Liz was saying, think about yourself in the future. This is more like think about that tiny sliver of yourself, similarly, that is brave, and bring her forward and give her a persona so that when you need to be brave, you can call her forward. So mine is called Audacia, and she's taking up a lot of space lately. So I'm feeling good about that. Because I think it takes a lot of audacity to kind of figure out what it is you want and be okay with it. And then it takes like tenacity to go after it and steer the course. So that's how her name was born for me. But you can name it anything. Um, so I would love for everyone to just take a moment and maybe we'll turn our cameras off for this as well. And I think we only need maybe a couple of minutes. And I want you to think of a time when you were really brave. And for some of you, that might be an easy thing. You might be brave every day, but for some people, it's a little bit of work. And you might have to think a little harder and go back a little further to a time that you felt really like, yeah, I loved how I showed up in that moment. And I want you to pull that part of you forward and give it a face, give it a name. What is she wearing? How does she walk? How does she show up? Where is she? What is she doing? What's her whole vibe? So that you can have a strong visual representation of that part of you. And that when you need it most, you can call it forward easily. So while I sort of use it as an alter ego persona, and my where this came from me was really from my love of performance and from drag. And I thought, why can't you take the same approach and bring it into your everyday life? Actors and performers use this method all the time. It's called method acting. It's how they bring the most realistic version of that character forward. And I think it's a fantastic tool that you can use for yourself in everyday life. Okay, let's all come back. So was anyone ever able to sort of see this part of them and give it a name and give it a persona? Maybe Connie, maybe I can call on you.
I had to pause on that because I think for me, just being who I am today is my persona. I never try to be a superhero of some sort of others because that's not me. I want to be the best version of me. But from a body language perspective, if I think about a persona, it's every time I had to do something brave, it was raising my hand and calling it out or asking for help. So for me, it was the exercise of just acknowledging this power stance. So like, hello. As my superpower in terms of like bringing that bravery out.
I love that. Well, that wraps it for my side.
Erin, did you want to share it all? I'm picking on you.
Oh, I actually felt really similar to you. It's like whenever I want to imagine like myself in the future or just like an alter ego of me, I try my best to imagine it like within myself first because I feel like it's easier for me to grow into that person if I think of it as myself and not someone who I will be in the future.
Mm.
That's what I was feeling.
Thank you. Um, Anyone else want to do a reflection before we move to our next topic?
I'm just noticing that I have a warrior on my team. She's very good at doing hard things and fighting and getting stuff done. But I'm noticing that there's really this other side of bravery, which is more about vulnerability, which is
Mm.
not the warrior that I need on my team. It's a different style of bravery. And that one's a lot harder for me. So noticing it's easy to be brave in some contexts, but not all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I only really realized this sort of other side of myself